I know it's been 2 weeks and I'm really sorry about that, but I hope you can forgive me and we'll just press on, shall we? Hello everybody and welcome back to a new video on the channel. So, with another international break coming and going, and thank God we don't have another one until March, it got me thinking, who is the best player to have played for Charlton from every single country in the world? I've been planning on making this video for the longest time, you don't understand, and today we are finally getting round to doing it. I've had a lot of fun researching and preparing for this video, going back over the history books and finding out who is the best player to have played for every country. I think there is over 60 nations represented in this video, and without any further hesitation, it's going to be a long one, but it's going to be a fun one. So we'll go through the nations in alphabetical order, starting off with Albania, and we have Astric Ajerovic. The former Liverpool Academy graduate was loaned to the club in 2014 from Standard Liège, was one of the many players that came from the network of clubs under the Roland era. In total, he made 19 appearances for the club, scoring 2 goals. Felt he was a very good player, very technically good player. For Algeria, it was a toss between Majid Bouguera and Ahmed Kashi, and I've gone with Majid Bouguera. He played for us in the 2007-08 season, our first season back in the Championship following relegation from the Premier League. He made 34 appearances, scoring 2 goals. He was our 11th most expensive signing according to Transfermarkt, signed for 3.41 million from Sheffield Wednesday, and is our 10th most expensive departure as he left for Rangers the following year for 2.93 million. Was a very close one with this one. Ahmed Kashi obviously was a very solid CDM as well when he played for the club, although ravaged with injuries, but still very good when he played. Angola Igor Vetakele. It bugs me so much how good this guy could have been had he not been injured. We all remember him in his first season for other club in the Championship after he joined from Liège. He was absolutely astonishing in the first part of that season, 2014-15, and he just kept getting ravaged with injuries. He had a couple loan spells in Belgium. In total, he scored 18 goals and got 10 assists in all competitions for the club over a 5-year period. Great player on his day. Just a shame with injuries. And then for Antigua and Barbuda, we come to Josh Parker. There wasn't much choice with this one. Not many players actually played for the club other than Parker from Antigua and Barbuda. But Parker is the one that I've ended up going with. He, of course, made 10 appearances for the club in the 2018-19 promotion-winning season. He didn't score a goal, but a lot of Charlton fans were very pleased with his work rate and his effort. Argentina was a toss-up between Federico Bessone and Juan Cobian. Yeah, not the two greatest of choices here. I've ended up going with Bessone because he was actually the only one of the two that actually played for the club. He made 13 appearances in the 2010-11 League One season where we finished 13, and I just haven't heard very good things, to be honest with you. For Australia, we have shot stopper Andy Peterson, our player of the year in the 1996-97 season. In total, made 85 appearances for the club over a 5-year period between 94 and 99. For Barbados, we have striker Mark McCammon. Yeah, this is another dodgy one, to be honest with you. He only made 4 appearances for the club and didn't really have much of a choice to pick him because he is the only representative from Barbados. Belgium, Johnny Bayerns. This one, again, is another annoying one because this guy was so good for the club in the season that he was here, and it bugs me that the one good player, or one of the many few good players that we had from the network of clubs that was actually half decent, didn't end up staying for the club. He joined on loan in the 2014-15 season from Standard Liège, made 40 appearances that season, scoring 8 goals, of course kept a 100% penalty record that season. Bulgaria, Radostin Kishishev, an absolute club legend, and there is no denying that. 179 appearances over a 7-year period in the Premier League between 2000 and 2007. Our 7th most expensive signing according to Transfermarkt, £4 million we paid from him from Lovech, I think, who were playing in the Bulgarian Premier League at the time. And yeah, Kishishev, from what I've heard from my dad, I never actually saw Kishishev play, but from what I've heard from my dad, he was a player that just got the job done. You know, he was a player that done the dirty work. And then for Cameroon, we have a player that was very underrated when he played for the club, in my opinion, and that is centre-back Andre Baiki. He was only with us for 1 season in the 2014-15 season, made 34 appearances, scoring the 1 goal against Wolves. I was actually there on that day, headed from a corner, I do believe. But yeah, Baiki, I felt he was very underrated, a very solid, strong central half. Alex Song as well, although Song did play very well during that period. I was debating picking Song, but in the end, I went with Baiki. Before this year, we didn't actually have a representative from Canada until Liverpool winger Liam Miller. 27 appearances, for the club during the back end of that season, scoring 2 goals and got 6 assists. Definitely was a very good player to have on that left-hand side. Player with a bit of pace. He loved to cut inside on the right, I remember quite a lot. He was a bit of a one-trick Eddie, just loved to cut inside and cross the ball in the box. But overall, I think his time at the club was very, very successful. And as we all know, he went on to join Swiss side Basel, who are playing Conference League football this year. For the Central African Republic, we have fullback Kelly Yuga. He made 69 appearances for the club between 2009 and 2011. China Zhengzhi. Oh my God. He in total made 67 appearances for the club, scoring 9 goals. From what I've heard from Charlton fans, he was just an absolute workforce in the middle of that pitch and just loved to score goals. And the legend is still playing to this day at the age of 40, I do believe. He's still playing in the Chinese Super League. Denmark was a very close one between Claus Jensen and Allan Simonsen, but in the end, I've gone with Claus Jensen. I know that Allan Simonsen obviously was supposedly, or is widely regarded as one of the highest rated players we ever had at the club. Of course, the famous Ballon d'Or winner that ended up coming to us. But the reason I went with Jensen is because Simonsen was only with us for 1 season, and what Jensen did for a Charlton shirt is just legendary. Our third most expensive signing according to Transfermarkt, £5.4 million he paid for him, and in total he made 123 appearances for the club, scoring 16 goals. I've still got his goal from Highbury in that 4-2 win over Arsenal just playing rent-free in my head non-stop, honestly. Again, a player that I really, really wished I could have seen, but just missed that era. But yeah, Jensen, club legend. DR Congo Trésor Kandel. Now, not many people probably know this guy, and to be honest, I didn't know either until I did this research. It was a toss-up between him or Jordan Bataka, but Bataka, I mean, he was in my worst Charlton 11 of the decade last year, so I couldn't really pick him. And to be fair, Kandel actually scored the same amount of goals as Bataka did, but in half the time. He joined the club on loan from Leeds in 2009, playing 13 games, scoring 2 goals. And also, from what I've heard, did half love a backflip. And then we come to one of the hardest choices on this video, the best Charlton player from England. There was a lot of choices I could have gone with this one. Keith Peacock, Darren Bent, Derek Hales. You know, there is so many legendary Charlton players that I could have gone from England. But in the end, I have gone with our record appearance holder, the man with the statue outside the ground and the bar named after him, shot stopper Sam Bartram. The one-man club, 583 appearances between 1934 and 1956. Pretty self-explanatory. He just goes down as an absolute club legend. I could have gone for Keith Peacock, as I say, and there was many other players from this country that were absolutely extraordinary for the football club. But for me, Bartram, he just had to be top of the list for me. Finland's Jonathan Johansson, again another quality midfielder that used to play for the club in the Premier League era. The 8th most expensive signing, 3.85 million from Rangers, 148 appearances for the club, 27 goals between 2000 and 2006. Again, another player that I wish I could have watched in the Premier League era. Absolutely quality. France, Jan Kermorgant. There couldn't be anybody else for France to pick other than Jan Kermorgant. I mean, there was Alou Diarra, who was, again, very good for us, but it just had to be Kermorgant, and my God, do I miss him today. 89 appearances, 28 goals, and he just absolutely loved this club. He gave his heart and soul. He was so passionate, and the way he left the club was just so heartbreaking under Roland Duchâtelet. For Gabon, we come to winger Frederick Boulo. Again, another player from the Roland era that was a quality player and was absolutely gutting that we didn't have him for longer. 28 appearances, 5 goals and 2 assists on loan from Liège in the 2014-15 season. Honestly, he was just an absolute joy to watch that season on occasion. He was absolutely fantastic, and I was just gutted that, again, like Bayern's, we didn't have him for longer. And then for Germany, we have the playoff hero himself, the BFG Patrick Bauer. A dominant goal-scoring centre-half, played for the club from 2015 to 2019, signed from Portuguese side Maritimo from the 2015-16 season, and in total made 124 appearances, scoring 8 goals. Of course, the last one that he scored being that infamous playoff winner against Sunderland. I had a fair amount of choices for Ghana, but in the end I went with Kim Grant. 155 appearances for the club over a 9-year period, scoring 25 goals. Guadeloupe, Johan Churam Ulayan. Guinea-Bissau Junior Quiterna, the youth academy graduate who was released by the club at the end of last year. He never actually made a senior appearance in the league for us. He played twice in cup competitions, and as I say, he was released at the end of the season. He's now playing his football in the Irish Premier League for Waterford, and he's doing quite well for himself, to be fair. 15 appearances thus far, scoring 6 goals. Guyana was originally centre-back Leon Court until I remembered that one player had his nationality changed from England to Guyana, and I've ended up going with him, and that is winger Callum Harriott. In total, he played 86 times for the club, scoring 11 goals. Another player that wouldn't have been in this video had they not had a nationality change over the years. For Hungary, we have right-back Loic Nago. Yeah, this one is a bit of a joke, to be totally honest with you. He is the only representative from Hungary. He played once for the club, and as you know, he was in my worst Charlton 11 of the decade. So I guess I'll just move swiftly on to Iceland, which definitely was a tough choice in this video. There was a toss-up between two. I could have gone for Johan Berg Gudmundsson, but in the end I went with centre-half Herman Hreidarsson. Again, another quality centre-half. 132 appearances for the club between 2005 and 2007. As I say, I could have gone with Gudmundsson as he was a player that I did see play for us, and he was a very technically good player, had the left foot of a demon. But yeah, Hreidarsson for me. Iran Reza Gujanajad. Remember when we first signed this guy and we thought that we'd signed an absolute worldie, and he just turned out to be a bit meh, didn't he? To be fair, it was between him or Karim Bagheri, but Bagheri never played for the football club, so I didn't have a choice but to pick Gujanajad. In total, he played 38 times for the club, scoring 3 goals. For Israel, Tal Ben Haim, he made 37 appearances for the club in 14-15, and many Charlton fans did agree that Ben Haim and Baiki were very much underrated when they played for the clubs, and it was a shame again that Ben Haim wasn't there for much longer. Like I've said many times in this video, one of the many few players that came to the club from the network of clubs that was pretty decent. Italy, Paolo Di Canio. There is no other player that I could have picked for this video. It still blows my mind to this day that Di Canio actually played for the club. Of course, he joined us in the 2003-04 season, which is to date our best ever season in the Premier League. We finished 7th that year. He, of course, joined the club from West Ham after having a ridiculously good spell there. Played 31 times for the club, scoring 4 goals. Will not forget that Panenka penalty that he scored for his first goal for the club. That was absolutely sensational. The nerve to have to do that, but then again, that is Paolo Di Canio for you. Ivory Coast was a choice between academy graduate Kenneth Yao and attacking midfielder Abdul Razak. The two of them played a combined total of 5 times for the club, so I wasn't really sport for choice here. But in the end, I went with the academy graduate Kenneth Yao. The centre-back played only 3 times for the club. They only came in cup competitions. And then for Jamaica, we have our Premier League all-time top goal scorer turned assistant manager, Jason Yule. And also not to mention our club record signing from AFC Wimbledon, 6.75 million according to Transfermarkt. Imagine us forking that sort of money out nowadays. Absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, as I say, he was our Premier League all-time top goal scorer. 34 goals in 150 appearances. Now, this next one is a little bit of a stretch, if I'm being totally honest with you. But from Latvia, we have a man by the name of Rolands Balders. Yeah, as I say, this is a bit of a stretch because there actually is no record of him whatsoever playing for the club. I tried looking up his statistics, but I mean, according to World Football Net, he allegedly played for the club. I just thought, why not chuck him in? This guy for sure does have a cult following from his nation. For Lebanon, we have academy winger Hadi Gandour. Again, another player that hasn't played a professional minute in the league for the club yet. He is currently on loan at Maidstone United. Mali Djimi Traore. Definitely not heard good things about this guy, that's for sure. Joined the club for £2.5 million from Liverpool in the 2006-07 season, the season we got relegated from the Premier League. Played only 11 times for the club. Yeah, definitely not heard good things about this guy. Definitely a failed transfer, that one. Montserrat Lyle Taylor. I know how Charlton fans feel about him to this day. I've mentioned it so many times in various videos. We all hate him now for the way that he left the club, but there is absolutely no denying that the guy's goal record was absolutely sensational. 67 appearances for the club, 36 goals. That League One season he had with us was absolutely sensational. Championship again was very good, but obviously the way he left the club was highly controversial. Morocco Talal El Kakori. Oh my God, that goal against Arsenal, the free kick. Again, another goal that just lives rent-free in my head, but what a sensational player he was for this football club. 78 appearances for the club, scoring 8 goals between 2004 and 2007 until the club got relegated from the Prem. The Netherlands was a toss-up between 3 players, but in the end I went with academy graduates and one of my favourite players to ever play for the club. It's right-back Anthony Dijksteel. The other 2 players were Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank and Ian Martson. Hasselbank, obviously, we signed him after his time at Chelsea. He was absolutely sensational at Chelsea. At Charlton, very average, has to be said. And obviously Ian Martson was a player that was very controversial when he played for us. A lot of people didn't like him, some people liked him, but in the end I went with, in my opinion, the one consistent player, although very much underrated when he played for the club, and that is Dick Steele. He made 41 appearances for the club, scoring the one goal, of course, against Scunthorpe United, but he was a joy to watch, in my opinion. He was such a joy to watch, man. 95% of the time, no one was getting past him on that right-hand side. He was just absolutely fantastic. And it honestly devastated me when we sold him to Middlesbrough in the Championship season for £2 million. Made a profit on him, obviously, but yeah, I was a little bit gutted that we let him go. New Zealand, Adrian Webster. Yeah, this is another one that's just been thrown in, to be honest with you. Webster never actually played for the club. He is the only player to represent New Zealand for the football club. Was debating not putting him in the video because he never actually played for the club, but it's another nation to chuck in this video, so I'm chucking him in. And then for Nigeria, we have the midfield maestro, Joe Aribo. From the day I first saw this guy put on a Charlton shirt in 2016-17, I was saying to my dad, this kid is going to be special. I picked him up from Staines Town, and he absolutely made a name for himself at this football club. 97 appearances, 16 goals, an absolute joy to watch in that promotion-winning season. Honestly, he was absolutely quality. But with Steven Gerrard now going to Aston Villa, Joe Aribo does make his move to the Premier League because he deserves it, man. He needs to be playing Premiership football. We're going back to the very beginning with this one. From Northern Ireland, we have striker Alex Steele. He played for the club between 1921 and 1926, made 146 appearances for the club, scoring 26 goals. Was one of the players who played in our first ever season in the Football League, so there's one for you, there's one for the history books. Norway, Thomas Meyer. Didn't have much of a choice of this one, but ended up going with the shot stopper who played for the club in the Premier League era. Kept 10 clean sheets in the second half of the 2005-06 season and went 10 hours without conceding a goal at the Valley that year. So we done very, very well within that season. Had a couple goalkeepers in this video, and we have another one now from the Philippines, Neil Etheridge. I did actually think Etheridge came through our academy, but it turns out he had a couple loan spells with the club before joining the club permanently in our Championship season. In the end, made only 5 appearances for the club before being sold to Walsall, and of course we all know him today as a solid Championship goalkeeper, playing for the likes of Cardiff, and he now applies his trade with former Charlton manager Lee Bowyer at Birmingham City. Poland, Christian Bielik, one of the best midfielders I've ever seen put on a Charlton shirt, and it is absolutely gutting that we only had him for the season that we did, but my God, he was absolutely sensational in that year. 34 appearances for the club on loan from Arsenal, scoring 4 goals. Of course, one of those coming in the playoff semi-final second leg against Doncaster. That just absolutely took the roof off the Valley. And yeah, I think we can safely credit ourselves as making Christian Bielik what he is today. But I'm absolutely devastated with his time at Derby County. 2 ACL injuries at his time with the club. I'm absolutely gutted for it. Portugal, Jorge Costa. Again, another player that I actually thought was with us for much longer than what he was. He joined the club on loan from Porto in the 2001-02 season. We don't call him the tank for nothing. You know, Costa was absolutely sensational for us. There was a couple of options for the Republic of Ireland, but in the end, I went with club legend and captain Mark Kinsella. What a player in the middle of the pitch he was. It was a close call for me between him and Dean Kiley, but in the end, I just went with Kinsella. He was just absolutely sensational when we put on that Charlton shirt. Over 200 appearances for the club, 20 goals. Bought for 150k from Colchester, sold to Aston Villa for $1 million. Was player of the year in the 1998-99 season, and of course captained that side in the famous playoff victory over Sunderland. Going back to a bit of a dodgy one with this one. For Romania, we have striker George Tukadin, who joined the club on loan from Liege in the 2014-15 season. Another one of Roland's network players who was absolutely shocking for the football club. Played 20 times for the club, scoring 2 goals. And of course, we all know that infamous miss that he had against Millwall, which could have won us the game and ended our unfortunate run against them over the years. But yeah, Tukadin, very much meh. Russia, Alexei Smirtin, a player that has come out recently and said that he should have stayed at the club longer. Joined the club on loan in the 2005-06 season from Chelsea, playing 18 times. Didn't watch him play, but I've heard very good things from his time at the football club. Heading back to the history books with this one, for Scotland, we have left-back John Huey, a player that made over 500 appearances for the club in a 19-year period, scoring 37 goals as well, according to Wikipedia, so done quite well for a left-back. But yeah, another one of those club legends who I've had to do my research on. Senegal was a toss-up between 3 centre-backs: Naby Sarr, Souleymane Diawara or Amdi Faye. I guess you could say I picked the best of a bad bunch of this one. Of course, I have gone with the cult hero, Naby Sarr. Of course, we all know how bad he was at the start of his tenure with the football club. Signed him for £1.5 million from Portuguese giant Sporting Lisbon. Made over 100 appearances for the club in total in the end. Scoring 8 goals. Of course, it didn't start off well for him whatsoever. Definitely had what I like to call a Naby moment. The playoff final against Sunderland was a prime example, but he was just an absolute cult hero. Everybody loved him, even though he was Virgil van Dijk one week and a Sunday League player the next. Gotta love a bit of Naby in you. Serbia, Marko Dimitrovic. A classic example of a player that goes to a club, does absolutely nothing for us and turns out to be absolutely sensational after he leaves. He joined the club from Újpest, the Hungarian club that Roland owned at the time. Made only 5 appearances for the football club. Then went on to absolutely smash it at Alcorcón in Spain, who were another club that Roland actually owned. Made over 100 appearances for Elbar, where he scored a penalty, if you remember correctly. And he now applies his trade at Sevilla. Bloody typical, isn't it? South Africa, Eddie Firmani, absolute club legend. Had 3 different spells at the football club. In total, made 165 appearances, scoring 88 goals. And he did actually manage us for a time as well after he retired from 1967 to 1970. Heard very good things about this guy, and he's got the goal record to prove it. South Korea, Yoon Suk Young. The left-back joined the club on loan from QPR in our championship relegation campaign. He played only 9 times for the club. A lot of people said they didn't like him, but to be honest with you, I didn't mind it. For Spain, there was only really one choice. We had quite a lot of shitters from Spain, to be honest with you, but the only one that was actually half decent, by judging by his record, was defensive midfielder Miguel Lera. He played for the club between 2009 and 2011, I do believe. 45 appearances in all competitions, scoring 6 goals. Fairly decent, if you ask me. St Vincent and the Grenadines, Leroy Ambrose. Like Roland's Boulders of Latvia, absolutely no record of him playing for the club whatsoever. He's on World Football Net, so here he is in this video. And then for Sweden, this one was actually a really tough choice because looking at the stats for these players, they actually had some pretty good records. We had Mattias Svensson. A lot of people didn't like Martin Pringle, but he had a fairly okay record. Made quite a lot of appearances for the club and scored a fair amount of goals. But the one I've gone with is a man by the name of Hans Jepsen. He played for the club in the 1950s. Played 11 games for the club apparently, scoring 9 goals. It is said on Charlton Life apparently that apart from Alan Simonsen, he is one of the highest rated players we actually ever had at the football club. He was a Sweden international during the Brazil World Cup in 1950, I do believe, so he must have been half decent, let's put it that way. But yeah, it was very close between Pringle, Svensson and Jepsen. For Trinidad and Tobago, we have goalkeeper Tony Warner, and again, it's another player that's been chucked in this video because he never actually played for the football club. Turkey, Erhan Öztürk. Yeah, this one is a little bit of rule bending because technically Öztürk is English, but if you look at like matchday programs and on the website, it says that he's Turkish. But look, it was between him or Anil Koch. Out of those two, who are you picking? Although, to be fair, Öztürk didn't really live up to the Turkish Messi nickname that he has, did he, when he played for the football club? Made 19 appearances for the club, scoring 1 goal. Uruguay, Diego Poye. Whatever happened to this guy after he left Charlton? Won the Player of the Year in the 2013-14 season, despite making 20 appearances. Didn't play for the first half of that season. He won Player of the Year. We then sold him to West Ham for 500k. Barely played for the Hammers, then was loaned back to the club during our relegation season, played only 6 times, and he's now retired from professional football at the age of 26. The United States was a toss-up between goalkeeper Mike Ammon and defender Jonathan Spector, and in the end, I went with the shot stopper Mike Ammon. Made 30 appearances for the football club between 1994 and 1996. And then we have Wales. This one was a really, really tough choice. I narrowed it down to 2 players, but in the end, it just had to be Johnny Robinson. What an unbelievable player he was for the club. A player that had so much passion. 332 appearances for the club. 35 goals between 1992 and 2003. 2 promotions to the Premier League under his belt, and of course scored a penalty during that infamous playoff final win over Sunderland. A little bit of rule bending with this one, seeing as this nation doesn't exist anymore, but for Yugoslavia we have goalkeeper Sasha Ilic, the playoff final hero himself. 51 appearances for the football club, and we all remember him for that infamous playoff final, as I say, against Sunderland, saving Michael Gray's penalty to send us to the Premier League. Made a few Premier League appearances as well before leaving the club not long after our relegation. And then to wrap up this video, we have Zimbabwe, and of course it is striker Macaulay Bond. Signed for the club from Leyton Orient in our Championship relegation campaign in 2019-20 for 200k. Went on to play 40 games for the club in all competitions, scoring 12 goals. And of course, he was sold to QPR after just 1 year with the club last season for £2 million. And he now applies his trade in League One now, which is just even funnier considering that we sold him for 2 mil, just for him to come straight back to League One, although he is absolutely killing it at Ipswich. He just managed to step up when we needed him with the injury crisis, but obviously his head was turned in the League One season by the QPR move, and we ended up making a pretty tasty profit on him. So that is it for this video, guys. I hope you guys did enjoy it. If you did, can you possibly leave a like, subscribe if you're new around here, and turn on those post notifications so you are notified of when I post. What do you guys think of my choices? Let me know in the comments below. Would you have picked anyone else for these nations? Do let me know. This has been Tyler Rollinson. Have a nice day, and I will see you all on Saturday for the match reaction against Plymouth Argyle. Take it easy, stay safe, and I'll see you all then.